Hope you're well. It's really good to be here again. Thank you so much to the hospital rooms for inviting me to deliver this three-part workshop. If you didn't attend the first one, please don't worry. You can just jump right in and yeah, we'll create a new piece of work, or you can build on the work that you started in the first session. So I am a London-based artist. I live and work in West London. I create handmade collages featuring Black women. I think I said this in the first session, but I absolutely love creating work. It forces me to slow down a little bit. Things can get quite busy and hectic, and yeah, it's just it gives me some space to create and time to think and process things. So in today's session, we will be exploring portraiture. So in the first session, you might remember, I've got here my example of what I made. I really, it's a very different piece of work for me to create, which I'm really grateful for, because so often it's easy to create the work that you're used to making. So as you can see around me in the studio here, I tend to work with portraits. You can see a portrait of myself here and some other pieces behind me. But with this work, I was exploring texture and pattern and nature. And I asked you to think about in the first session, or asked everyone to think about who attended, just to think about how they were feeling and translating those feelings into a piece of artwork. But in today's session, we will be looking at portraiture, as I said. We'll be looking at shapes, colours, bold colours, outlines, and the materials that you will need for today's session are glue sticks. I've got some notes here. I'm not going to pretend that I'm remembering all of them. Glue sticks, marker pens. You might want to use paint or crayons, but these are all, if you have them, then use them, but definitely a glue stick, definitely paper or card, so you can put your work onto if you're assembling it in layers. If you have received or downloaded the PDF, you will have a pack of different faces, and I've tried to make them as diverse as possible, because with my series that I've been creating Seeing Ourselves, it's really all about me wanting to see myself in artworks, and in terms of myself, I mean Black women who look like me, basically. So yeah, I've tried to make the images that you've got to download as diverse as possible. So select an image. If you don't have an image, please don't worry. You can just head over to a magazine and see something and find something that you feel you connect with, an image that you connect with. But what I wanted to do with you first of all today actually is just to show you some examples of some artists whose work I really like, and I'll show you the work, then we'll talk about them. Okay. So the first one I want to show you, you can see how used up this cutting that is there, can't you? I tend to usually work with scalpel knives, but for today's session, as with last week's session, we will be cutting and we will be tearing and ripping mainly. So here we have the work of Matisse. This piece is called Composition Black and Red, and it's from 1947. I'm showing you this piece because I think it's a really interesting work. Now just glancing at it, for me, I can see a portrait. Some of you might not be able to see it, but art is very, very subjective, isn't it? So it's about what you see, what you bring to the work. It's not always about what the artist is trying to make you see or intends you to see. I really love this work because I love the shapes, I love the layering, I love the negative space. I use negative space a lot in my own work, and I play with, cutting away. By negative space, I mean areas that are cut away, areas that are removed, and you can see this quite clearly in this piece here that's just behind me, and also in my self-portrait, where the negative space would be the head area that's been removed. I'm going to show you another one. I'm just going to drop these on the floor, but hopefully they won't make a really loud noise. I also want to show you this beautiful work. This is in a brilliant book called No Colour Bar, and it's Black British History in Action 1960 to 1990, an excellent exhibition that took place only a few years ago at the Courtauld Gallery. So this work is by Paul Dash. It's a self-portrait. I'm showing you this piece because I'm really interested in self-portraiture. It's something that I struggle with, and you might not realize that by just looking at that image behind me, and it might look like I'm really comfortable with creating images of myself, but it's something I find really, really difficult. And I'm always intrigued by artists who use themselves in their work and how they see themselves. Yeah, this artist is a Barbadian-born artist. I think that's probably why I've chosen them as well. Not only are they a good artist, but they're Barbadian, and that's where my mum's from. But yeah, I thought I would show you this piece. I love how Paul is looking directly into the camera, very confidently, an indication of who they are by having that palette just there with the paintbrush in their hand, and the choice of clothing and the use of color. And there's some beautiful background pattern in there too. So I just thought I'd briefly show you that one, because what I'd like you to think about is whether portraits actually need to be, do they actually need to represent yourself? Arguably, in portraiture, every work you create, we used to have these discussions at art college, every work you create arguably could actually be a self-portrait, because you are putting yourself into the work. So this is by my favorite, and I'm not joking, my favorite collage artist, Deborah Roberts, who I was fortunate enough to meet only a couple of years ago when she had an exhibition in London. Her work is outstanding. She mixes both paint with collages. They are large-scale pieces quite often. This one here is entitled We Wear the Masks, and it's a mixed media and collage on paper piece. I really love the use of pattern here, and if you remember last week we were looking at pattern, but it's interesting how she uses different size hands, for example, in the work. Different faces are used to build up an image, and here the legs and the feet are painted. That's all I'll say on that piece. I think I will leave it there. I just thought I would show you some examples, and then just one quick example of mine, and we'll get started. So I hope you've got all your materials. Remember what I said? So it's glue sticks, some paper, some marker pens or crayons. Pull out an example of an image that you'd like to, pull out an image you'd like to use. And so at the beginning, I said we were going to look at colour and bold colours. And I think this piece is probably the closest I've got to giving you quite a good example of how I use bold colours in my work. So I've got some very abstract shapes here. It gives you a real sense of how I build up my images. So here I've used a paper cutout that I've then actually flipped on the reverse, because what you might be able to notice just here is that there are hands here. So that's come from another image. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just comment in the chat, it's fine, and I'll respond. So yeah, let's get started. I think it's about time. You don't want to hear from me much more. So the image I'm going to be working with today is this one. So this is selected from the PDF. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a flick through magazines, because I want to do this in real time with you. I want to just take my time with this. So I've got a copy of Vogue. It's my favourite magazine. It's not sponsored. And I'm going to just select. So as you'll notice here, I'm just folding a section of colour. So I've got this image here, and that's the image that I'm going to be working on too. And I'm just pulling out sections of colour, bold colours that I like the look of. So I'm thinking about how I feel today, and maybe you might want to check in with yourself about how you're feeling today. I'm feeling quite good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put my hands in front a little bit. So I'm just pulling out different sections. I'm gonna move that post-it note of colour, bold colour that I like the look of. Now, yes, I could have looked for things beforehand, but I really like doing things in real time because we are working on this together. Oh, look, there we go. We are working at the same time with each other. So what I'm doing now is just preparing a few different bold colours to work with. And make sure I get this in shot every time. Sorry about that. So if you remember the first session, we were looking at pattern a lot more, weren't we, in different textures. I'm trying to select different sections of paper that is bold in colour, rather. Maybe that yellow might work. I absolutely love this image. It's beautiful. But I'm just going to take that small section away, that small corner. As I said, I love making. I seem to, most recently, the actual time I get to do the making side of things seems to be less and less. But I'm reclaiming this by delivering workshops like this, which is fantastic. Oh, that blue's lovely. I love that text, free people. I might see if I can find a way of using the text. So what I'm thinking is that I might start, I want to tear, I think I want to tear small sections and glue them together, very small sections. Now, what I want you to remember in this session is that if you don't complete the work, please don't worry. You can do the work, you can continue it in your own time. So it's not about necessarily completing everything by the end of the session. If you do, that's great, well done. But if not, please don't worry. And and by the end of this session, what we aim to have is a, at least you would have started a new collage piece. So I'm going to start with the blue, I think. Yeah. So in the first session, you might remember, I think I'm just going to use really tiny mosaic pieces. You might remember we use pattern. But yeah, we use pattern. Here we're building up with different shapes, okay? And this might take you back to being a child. And if it does, I hope they're happy memories. And I hope that it just gets you back in tune with that kind of playfulness that you might have had earlier on in life. And that's what I'm trying to connect with now, is that kind of that freedom of just making in the way you want to make. And if you didn't have those experiences, then I hope you can tap into them now. So in the first session, I talked about not committing to glue too early on, my commitment issues around glue. But today I'm going to dive straight in, because what we can do is anything that you don't like, just going to grab some glue over here. There we go. Anything you don't like, you can glue over. So you might want to work in this way, or you might choose to remove different sections or work with bolder sections of paper. And you might also, be layering up different bits of paper. So I created a piece very similar to this one, very early on in the series. And I think that's probably why I'm drawn to remaking the work now that I'm 3.5 years into the series. So the series that I'm talking about is called Seeing Ourselves. It's a hand-assembled collage series featuring women with natural afro hair. I wanted to create works that celebrated Black women. I wanted to explore my own identity through the works. And I wanted to encourage us all to take up space and to be seen. When I started making the works, I was working part-time in a museum. I was coordinating community engagement programs and hiring artists to do this kind of work. But my background is actually delivering the workshops myself and training teachers on how to deliver art workshops and political literacy workshops as well, and personal development. And it feels great to be able to work with you all today and to work on this project. There's something really satisfying about, for me, something really satisfying about working with paper. I think it's how accessible it is, how easy it is to work with, how you can explore paper and what it does. I don't think it's too intimidating either. You know, if you think of it, it's quite easy to get paper. You don't have to worry, you know, can I draw, can't I draw? My background is in painting. So when I started at art college, gosh, a little while ago, I graduated 10 years ago this year from St Martin's. And when I started at St Martin's, my dream was to be a painter. What I found is that because I was able to explore lots of different mediums, I started to play around with video installation work and painting less. What I think I bring to the collages that I tend to do with scalpel knives is that I tend to look at different sections of a face and build up the face as I would with a painting. So I'll show you what I mean very briefly. You can carry on with your collages, but I'll just show you what I mean. So for example, this piece here, I'm kind of thinking about how the face works and different sections of the face as I would build up using painting. I've kind of replicated that, but through collage. And yeah, I think that you can learn things from one medium that you can then carry over onto other mediums as well. But that's a piece I made. I think I made it, gosh, the years are blurring into each other the last couple of years, so I made it within the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm just literally doing this kind of mosaic style gluing. I'm not 100% sure I will definitely get it completed in this session, but that's okay. What I'd like you to do is kind of think about the colours that you want to use to represent how you're feeling at the moment, whether you want to glue, whether you want to create long strips. You know, it is possible to create long strips and then glue them layered up. I have got an example actually I can show you. So I created this piece during the demo workshop I did for this. And yeah, this one is using pattern, obviously, but if you want to think about using strips, you can use strips as well. I just thought I'd show you that as an example. I'm really pleased that you guys have joined me today. I know it's warm and we're not used to warm weather. So, and we've done a lot of staying in. But you'll see here, I'm trying my hardest not to put too much glue on. I failed miserably there, but that's okay. Can you see? So sometimes the glue goes everywhere. That's fine, we're going to use it up anyway. It might be easier just for me to glue it onto there, because I don't usually work in this way. We're kind of, well, I haven't for a little while, kind of working alongside each other. For me, a lot of what I do is about the process. So I really love the process of making. I really love how it makes me feel. Something strangely satisfying about tearing paper and gluing it on. And obviously you can have really large, bold shapes, or you can have smaller sections. If you would like to use text in this, if you come across any words that inspire you in some way, then you can. And just remember, the purpose of this workshop isn't necessarily to replicate the work in the way I do it. It's about you trusting your own intuition, trusting your own voice. And you don't have to be an artist in order to make work. I wasn't even comfortable calling myself an artist for a long time. Don't ask why, it's one of those things. But yeah, just trust that you have the answers. And the best thing about working with collage is that anything you do that you don't like, it can easily be worked on, cut away, worked over, you know. There isn't that permanence where you feel as though you can't change it.
So just to let everyone know that we've got about 15 minutes left of today's session with Sharon. As Sharon said, please do continue to work on your piece long after our session has finished. Sharon, we've already had a comment come through from an anonymous attendee that says, this is very therapeutic, lovely session.
Oh, that makes me really happy. I'm glad they're enjoying the session.
If you do have any more comments or questions that you'd like to answer to Sharon, please do so in the Q&A box below.
What I love about this work is that with all my works, I don't know where it's going. And yeah, I kind of feel that if you know the direction the work's taking, I don't really see the point in making it to a certain extent. I like to just trust that things will work out. And I think I try and translate that kind of idea into life more generally, just to trust that things will work out. What I'm thinking is that it won't all be blue. I think I'd like the hair to be completely different. But I'm going to keep working on it and just see where it takes me. The likelihood of me being able to finish this in 15 minutes is, I'd say, impossible. But I really wanted to just go with the flow with this and not kind of rush it. So if you don't finish, please don't, you know, it's cool if you don't finish it. But I will continue with it. And the best thing about this is that it does give me, it encourages me to continue working on it outside of this session. And that's a gift for me right now.
I'd like to say,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Sharon, I apologise. Right. I'd like to say a big hello to Wharton Ward in the Ladywell unit. Thank you so much to everyone that is joining us from that unit. If you'd like to let us know where you're joining us from today, we'd absolutely love to hear from you.
So yeah, I'm glad that someone's fed back that they find it therapeutic. I find it really, really therapeutic. Even delivering the workshop is really relaxing. And you can probably tell by the pace of my voice. I went from quite a normal pace voice at the beginning to now feeling quite calm and chilled out. I do like that. I'm not going to pretend that I meant for this to happen. I could, but I won't. But I like the darkness here around the eye area. Maybe it just naturally happened. Yeah, you can see there, just there, where an eye might be. And I'm going to try and put some more darker area of blue around the lips. So here you can see I'm starting to notice that there are tones being picked up. Sometimes these things happen unintentionally, and that's okay. Just go with it. I think my finger's going to get stuck. There we go. I'm just using a slightly darker tone here.
So you've got a few people letting us know where they're joining us from today, Sharon. We've got Claire Ward from Ladywell. Thank you so much for attending today's workshop. We've got someone joining us from Kuwait. Thank you, May from Kuwait. Amazing to have such a global audience. Hello from Queen Mary's Lavender Ward. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we've also got Sandra who's joining us from South London. Hope you're enjoying today's workshop.
That's wonderful. So pleased so many of you have joined today. And I hope you're enjoying the session. Okay, so just take your time with the work. There is absolutely no rush. Yes, the session is 45 minutes long, but you know, time doesn't stop once this session ends, does it? You can continue outside of the allotted time for this workshop. I haven't worked in this way for years now. And it's really refreshing just to work in a different way. So some of you may follow me on Instagram, which is London_artist1. And you'll see then a very different style of work. I'm enjoying the opportunity to experiment by delivering this workshop. As I said earlier, it's very easy to create and recreate the same kind of style, but to get the opportunity to make something different or to allow yourself the space to explore creating in a different way, sometimes isn't that easy to access for whatever reason. So if you haven't worked in this way before, try to embrace it. I know it can be a little daunting sometimes when you're doing something new, but remember that you're creating in a way that feels comfortable for you. take a few moments to step back from what you're creating, look at it, think about where you'd like to go next, take a deep breath, and then return to the work. And it always feels a bit weird calling it work. Yeah, because I think that so often the word work has negative connotations, but I'm learning that since leaving my job in working part-time in a museum, which I was fortunate enough to do last year, that work can be a very, very positive experience.
So we've got a few more shout outs to units and people that are joining us today. Big hello to Johnson PQ in Lewisham. Thanks so much for joining us. And a huge hello to Rookery Gardens in Birmingham. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. We had a lovely comment from Jolene saying that today's workshop is fantastic, especially from Sharon. And Jolene is joining us all the way from Texas. Thank you so much for being with us today. Jolene's also left a comment saying Sharon's shirt looks very much like her art today.
Thank you, Jolene. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I've got a kind of whole paper cut collage look going on today. I don't know if you've noticed the nails too, but they look a bit paper cut like too. Yeah, I think I take my paper cutting and collaging quite seriously. I think it's quite a healthy session to have. Okay, so I'm just building up gradually. And if you do get an opportunity to look at different artists, please do. It's really worth looking at artworks created by other people. They might inspire you. Try different ways of creating the work. So obviously I'm using one technique here. As I said earlier, you can layer more, you can cut away negative sections, you can fold and tear, fold, crease and tear, and just see if there are other ways that you can create. You might even want to draw into what you're doing, you know, with a pen, or create some new lines, or, you know, such as this. So you might want to just draw a little bit. I've never tried this before, so it's quite good fun to be able to try something new. Now, if you just want to tidy up the lines here, I'm just using a black pen to create a more defined outline, just to see what happens when you change things slightly. It feels actually really nice to use a pen. So often I'm using other collage equipment, and obviously when I'm typing I'm using a keyboard. So opportunities to use things as simple as a pen sometimes might feel quite unusual, which is really interesting, because if you think of in childhood, so often we were using these things regularly. But in adult life we seem to use them less and less. I actually like what's happening now that there's a little bit more definition around the outline. But I also like these black lines. Maybe I might draw into them slightly, just to create more definition in some spaces. I'm just kind of thinking where I would like. So I'm creating an illusion of there being a tear mark there, for example. I'm not sure I like that bit, but hey, we'll go with it, we'll keep going.
Just to let everyone know, we've got about 5 minutes left of the session today, but as Sharon said earlier, please continue your artwork this afternoon if you have time. We'd love to see your end finished pieces. We've had a comment from the ladies on ES1 who are joining today's workshop. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Yeah, see, I like this line, but I really don't like this line. So I'm going to remove it because everyone else might be fine with it. But with creating this work, you're going with how you feel. So that's why I'm removing it, because I don't feel good about it. Yeah, that feels better now. Okay, just going to put a bit more glue on. You don't want the glue too big, like I said. Yeah, that feels better. I like this slight hint of this being an eye. Very slight hint. I'm really intrigued to see your work. I'd love to see